Hey everyone, this is Case coming in before the episode to note that this episode was recorded like 6 months ago. Another Pass is on a monthly schedule and has been ever since my first child was born, and as a result, we get very far ahead of ourselves sometimes. And in this case, with the movie K-Pop Demon Hunters, well, it was nominated and then won a bunch of Oscars in the interim between this episode being recorded and it coming out as an episode. And that is kind of a bummer, and should explain why we don't mention it in anything in the conversation about this movie. It certainly would have come up if we knew that it was even on the table, which, like I said, this was before the nominations even occurred. So if you're wondering why we're praising this movie and saying like, wow, I can't believe they missed the mark on this wonderful project, because this is a 5th episode, so we're talking about a movie that is good, and in spite of a troubled production. The heights that it had soared to had not even been reached at the point when we recorded this. It was just obvious that it was a lightning in a bottle kind of movie. Anyway, with that, it's still a great episode. We just didn't know that it was going to be an award-winning movie that we were talking about, not just a great movie. So on that note, enjoy. I have a curse now, which is that every time I think a movie would be a great selection because I don't have to do a bunch of rewatches because my daughter's obsessed with it, every single time that is the kiss of death in terms of her actually wanting to watch it. So the second we were getting close to wanting to, like the last 2 weeks, she's been so into Peppa Pig that, which she was already into, but like she at least before was like, oh, I'll mix it up. I'll watch Moana. I'll watch I'll watch Frozen.
Of a movie.
Oh yeah, of course. And K-Pop Demon Hunters was in rotation. All of a sudden, she's like just like laser focused on this one fucking cartoon.
I do have a personal beef with the pig, though. We'll say.
Oh yeah.
No, I don't approve. She's rude. She's a rude.
She is very rude.
She's very rude.
I find that funny, but it is very interesting that the main character of the show is an extremely rude little girl. Anyway, enough gushing about my kids' cartoons.
Is this a Peppa Pig episode?
I know.
Welcome to Certain POVs, Another Pass podcast with Case and Sam. This week is a 5th episode, so we're talking about a movie that overcame adversity. Let's celebrate the creativity of the filmmakers.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Another Pass podcast. I'm Case Aiken, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Sam Alisea.
Hi.
Sam, we are here for a 5th episode, so we are talking about a movie that is good, and I am so excited to have the conversation
today.
Not
just good, it's golden.
It's golden, because today we are talking about K-Pop Demon Hunters, and to have that conversation, we have returning guests, Katie DeMatteis.
Hello.
And Ben MartinMooney.
Hello there.
Guys, thank you for... Yes, yeah.
I had to get it right. I said it and I was like, wait, that was wrong.
I wasn't sure how to riff specifically on that one in this context. I couldn't figure out the Star Wars to K-pop.
There's something there with the lightsabers, and there's
yeah.
We can workshop it.
Yeah, we can workshop that one. But what didn't need to be workshopped is this movie, because goddamn, I love this movie. This is a fabulous addition to my repertoire of movies that I can have on that are just loaded with bangers that I don't really mind showing my little daughter and having her be obsessed with the K-Pop Demon Hunter stuff.
This movie is a huge win for parents everywhere.
Oh my God, yes.
I think the sort of like baseline thing that we can say about it.
Yeah, so we're recording this in November of 2025, and I am curious, question I'm going to open before we even get into a conversation about like what we think about the movie. How many Rumi and or other character Halloween costumes did you see this year?
So many that I just knew personally, let alone the pictures of other people online. And like on the street, and I don't know, I would say upwards of 20.
At least.
Yeah. And also even at like New York City Comic-Con, there were so many callbacks. And like even like more obscure things. Like there was a Healer Han walking around with a bobby, which I thought was really funny. But yes, like everyone, like there's so many people in costumes, kids and adults.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like it for this year just like eclipsed everything else, especially because I think because it appeals to kids and adults equally, it has the market share in terms of what people want to dress up as.
Yeah. I saw tons of Rumis, but my favorite was actually one of my daughter's classmates was dressed up as Abby, one of the Sasha boys.
Oh, hell yeah.
And I was like, hell yeah.
I've seen some crazy Sasha Boys cosplay on the internet.
Yes.
Like the demon form Sasha Boys.
Yeah.
Really incredible
a lot of that at
makeup.
Comic-Con too. Like a lot. I was actually standing behind some Sasha Boys in demon costume for the bathroom, and there was like a kid in front of me with her mom, and she kept looking up at them and like kind of just like doing like the soda pop dance, like just moving her shoulders.
That's insane.
And they were like
So
moving
cute.
it back to her while they were waiting for the bathroom. It was adorable.
I love that.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, because this movie has hit really well with parents and with kids and with just the general demographic out there. It's a pop culture sensation. So it makes sense for us to have this conversation because this is a movie that almost wasn't. It didn't have any support behind its release. Netflix kind of stepped in and took over from Sony and actually made it a thing, which is just mind-boggling to me.
A rare Netflix W.
Yeah. So I guess the question I have for everyone here is, how were you introduced to this movie?
What, you saw something on Instagram, Ben?
Yeah, I think I saw, you know what it was? It was a clip of someone covering Golden.
Oh, that is what it was.
It was this
that
woman who's sitting, I don't know, in a recording studio somewhere, just absolutely belting while looking so casual. And I was like, okay, one, this song slaps. But two, as like a former vocalist, someone who can hit these notes and is doing so while sitting down and looking totally nonchalant is just sort of unfathomably cool to watch. And so I was like, okay, well, what is this from? And they're like, okay, KPop Demon Hunters. And then I think we'd also been told about it by, friends.
Yeah, but I
with
promptly
kids.
forgot about that.
Yeah, I also did.
Our friend likes to remind us that he told us about it several months before we watched it, and I have no recollection of being told that we had to watch it.
Yeah, I believe that there's written evidence that that's the case.
I'm
but
sure there
it
is.
Truly flew the coop. And so then one afternoon we just, I like showed Katie the clip and I was like, hey, why don't we sit down? We've got a free afternoon. Let's just watch this movie. No expectations. What could possibly go wrong? Little did we know. That was all we were going to be singing for the next two or 3 months.
We've also watched it multiple times, and we don't have kids. This is of our own volition.
Yeah, just a couple people in their 30s who are watching K-pop Demon Hunters.
Well, I mean, that's totally fair. I mean, that like my exposure to it was the word of mouth. Like it was a huge conversation point on an episode of the Vergecast, which is a tech show, like a gadget podcast. And they were discussing K-pop Demon Hunters. And I was like, okay, this is definitely becoming a thing, but it hadn't quite crossed our threshold just because we weren't watching that much Netflix at the time. And then we had a family trip and my wife and her sister were like, you know what, let's watch this movie that everyone's talking about. And they watched it and then immediately shared it with the rest of their families. And we decided that it was okay for our 2-year-old daughter to watch. Now it is in constant rotation, a little less at the moment because my daughter is currently obsessed with Peppa Pig, but it's part of the hyperfixation. It just, ebbs and flows as that all goes. Sam, how about you?
I knew that this movie was coming because I am a fan of Twice, who's on the soundtrack, and they promoted it really heavily. And because I'm on the K-pop side of TikTok, there's a lot of buzz about this film. And it was also sent to me like by a couple of people. I was like, oh, like, look at this like thing. And I was like, oh, cool. And so I was really excited about seeing it. I watched it the first day it came out. And then watched it several times afterwards. And I also don't have kids. I also went to the movie theater for the sing-along with a couple of my friends.
Oh, we wanted to. We missed it. We weren't in town, but I don't blame you. That sounds so fun.
Yeah, my friend actually made me a sussy hat that I put on my head for the whole thing. It was very cute and it's fun. And so yes, I basically was the horse's mouth.
So what you're saying is they owe you some amount of finder fee.
They do.
Presumably.
They do. Like they were like, we're going to pinpoint like just like these nerds who listen to this type of music and also love animation, which is me. So like right in my wheelhouse of the Venn diagrams that hit my happy spot. And I was like, oh yeah, I gotta watch this. And I basically told my 2 coworkers and my best friend, I was like, we're gonna watch this movie and like report back to me tomorrow. And so that's what happened. And then my coworker Donnelly watched it like 7 times in the first week.
Oh,
So
that's so valid.
yeah. So it was definitely, they do owe me something.
Yeah, I think one thing that I find fascinating is that the fact that this is considered like okay for kids, like it's not just like in the family section on Netflix, it's in like if you go into the kids setting where it's like a really restricted list, that's still at like the top of their list of movies right there. So it's just it's for all ages apparently.
Yeah.
And has really hit that sweet spot for just the world in such a fascinating way. So for the people who are not familiar with this movie,
which is an insane thing to have to, I feel like everybody, I mean, I guess if you live off the
They're
grid,
chronically
maybe.
offline people.
Yeah. Also,
People who touch grass chronically.
Yeah.
I will be honest, there was a guy who was sitting next to me in the sing-along who his friend clearly brought him, and the whole
that's
time
a strong introduction.
Yeah, and so everyone's singing along, and he's like, "Oh, I don't know these songs. Why didn't you tell me before we came?" Like he was so upset that he wasn't prepared, and by the time he walked out, he was just like, "If they do this again, we're coming back, right? Because I want to be able to sing along."
Well, at least he was made into a fan that day.
I have a lot of respect for that guy. You're like,
Me
okay,
too.
I see that I've missed out on this, and also I shan't make that mistake again.
I joined in the clapping. It sounds like so like we got the finale, and he was, "This is amazing."
Nice. Sam, since this is such your wheelhouse, could you give a synopsis of this movie?
Sure. Oh my gosh. Usually you do this, and now I'm like, what? Me? Basically, the premise is that there is a demon, Rumi, who basically collects like souls of people, kind of really the devil, but someone who like entices you with doing things that are like not necessarily the right thing. And this comes from like old ancient like Korean lore, so this is like not a completely made up character, although he's specific to this movie. And so Guima has a bunch of souls, and he's been trying to really like take over, and he's insatiable. He really loves eating all the souls. And since the beginning, or at least feudal times in Korea, there have been these hunters who are through voice and through song basically connect people and connect hearts to keep them happy and whole. And it's always Hunters 3, and every generation has these 3 girls, these 3 women that basically protect everyone, creating the honeymoon and basically stopping Guima from being able to eat all of the world up with his darkness. And that's how it begins.
Yes, and then in the movie itself, like this generation is so close to finally what they say sealing the honeymoon, making it
sealing the honeymoon. Yes,
yeah, making it resonate with a golden frequency that it seems that they are unstoppable. That this girl group in this current age is this like modern, like super huge K-pop group, akin to a Twice in that scenario.
Yeah. And when they seal the honeymoon, they'll cut off Guima's like ability to access the human world, right? So like people will be safe forever. And Guima is losing because Huntrix is awesome and they're superstars and they fight all the time. And then one of Guima's demons that have been damned a long time has a wonderful idea to kind of fight fire with fire. but through song, through K-pop.
Right. Yeah. And so we get a demon boy band.
Yeah, which is great. So funny when they do the pose. One of my favorite lines is when they're like, really? Like a boy band? And so they're posing. Like, there's a guy's like, oh, yeah, it's going to work. It's going to work. I love that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then this also creates the situation where we find out that the girl group, despite their facade of being this implacable, unstoppable demon killing, but at the same time banger after banger generating group, that there is a little bit of secrets going on in there, specifically that the lead girl actually is half demon.
Oh my God!
Dun,
Spoilers.
dun, dun.
Wait, what? I missed that part.
And this gives us an opportunity too, because Rumi has been hiding her secret, and it's affecting how she feels about herself and her ability to sing, which is what they need to close, the honeymoon and to protect everyone. And she's actually hoping that she can do it as quickly as possible so that she can really get rid of this part of herself that she hates and that she's been taught isn't acceptable. This is what's really great for the value for kids and learning acceptance and accepting all of you. And she likes to rush into things but gets sick. And yeah, so then there's a love story and a wonderful concert at the end.
Yeah. So I think we nailed all the things. One thing we should emphasize, this is a musical. And a musical loaded with just hit after hit, like
it's bangers. Every single song is
every single one. It's so good.
Yeah,
like everyone is an earworm, and every earworm you're not mad about.
Yes.
Yeah. The songs are. Yep. I was just going to say that the songs are so well crafted and so intentional. In terms of how they fit in the moment. Like the creator Maggie actually said that she wanted Soda Pop to sound kind of soulless and just sound really catchy, kind of empty. And when you think about it, it really does. And so the writers, all the different writers who wrote on this, especially EJ, did a wonderful job with all their different parts and all the different songs that kind of bring the story to life and tell the story.
Is incredibly intentional. I've watched a couple different breakdowns of the sequencing of notes and the choices that are made lyrically, and it's all so intentional and so well done.
Also, for folks who aren't familiar with K-pop, it's a great way to be introduced.
A gateway to K-pop, would you say?
No, I wouldn't.
Okay.
I would not say that.
All right, fine.
But if you're unfamiliar, it's, I think, as good an introduction as you can get in terms of getting within the larger genre, different styles of music, and then being able to say okay, now you're familiar with some sort of a baseline. If you enjoyed this, you're probably going to just enjoy K-pop as a genre, generally speaking.
Yeah, and definitely there were
great.
Yeah, there were people online who were like, oh, you liked this song? Here are 10 songs that are very similar to it. And there were lists of songs that EJ wrote for other groups because she's a K-pop, writer, songwriter. And so there was oh, yeah, check out this song from aespa. Check out this song from, Red Velvet. And so people were going back. And so, yeah, it is a great way. I'll say it. I agree.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
Also,
sorry, Ben.
I was going to say, as somebody who likes to follow earworms down the rabbit hole, that sort of communal sharing of information is so lovely, right? To be okay, you liked that? Perfect. Here's 4 playlists that are 20 hours long to satisfy every itch that you have discovered that you now have as a result of this movie.
Right.
And I think the sort of communal aspect of it, we sort of touched on it a little bit in terms of the fact that whether or not you have kids is sort of irrelevant to whether or not you like the movie, and the way that it's sort of eclipsed every other costume this year. There is this interesting sort of cultural acknowledgement of the movie, and I feel like you don't see that happen that often, particularly with things that are musical, but just generally, it's unusual to see something sort of have that much of a chokehold on. I'm not going to say everybody, because obviously there are some people out there who don't enjoy it, although I can't imagine why.
But the zeitgeist as a whole,
yeah, you know,
Yeah.
people are into it, people are about it, and it's just it just has permeated every part of. I mean, certainly every part of my algorithm. Shoot.
And I also think that the music makes the movie. Like this isn't, and this is not a dig against the story at all, but I without the music, I think it would be a pretty vanilla animated movie, show, whatever it was. But with the music, I think like that is the thing that elevates it from like fun to great.
yeah, absolutely. Like that. I mean, that's why I say it's a musical. Like it's not like so much of the story is told, and like the inner truths of the character are told by way of music. If you stripped it out, like you'd barely have a movie.
Yeah.
I would say that it's you know, there are some musical movies, and I'm not going to talk about which, but there's some musical movies where it feels like the songs are just more pop songs, and they could be in anywhere. But this movie, because it is so intentional, right? Like it really, really informs everything. Like this is actually better than some of those that have come out recently.
Oh, for sure. Yes, this is a great gateway into K-pop as a genre, but it's also such a love letter to the genre, and is used so well and so elegantly in telling the story of these characters.
Yeah.
Like I'm just flabbergasted at how strongly composed the piece is as a whole. Every time I look at it, it's because it's short. It's such a fast movie, and at the same time we get so much emotion. We get so much backstory for characters. You know, think like Golden, for example, which just emphasizes all the stuff that they like sped run the exposition at the beginning of the movie. Golden like just makes you feel it in a way that you're like, oh, now I understand Mira and I understand Zoe so much better than I would have if it was just, like I said, just a little bit of exposition at the top.
I would have loved a little bit more time, and I understand that it's an animated movie and you only get so much time, but to explore some of that history and also explore the backstories of the other two Huntrix members, because I feel like there definitely was a lot there when they wrote it, and I've even seen some like deleted scene concepts of how they explored those narratives a little bit more deeply. But like I wish they would have just added an extra 20 or 30 minutes and done it. And I'm sure that wasn't, you know, I'm sure that if the creators had their druthers, they would have been able to do that. And I imagine there was, you know, it has to be X amount of time, but I don't think it would have lost anything for being a little bit longer.
Yeah, I actually felt that I was a little disappointed. Not necessarily. I mean, I love the other characters too, and I love Mia and Mira a lot. But I think I would have really liked to see more of like Selene actually, because like because I think
because she's like a famous singer herself,
right. But like I think also the end moment, right? And I know that this is like a big kind of running theme because this also happened in Turning Red. You know, there's a theme of, you know, within the Asian community, the feeling that parents want you to be perfect, right? And Celine was like, I tried to love you. And so like this is like this like very emotional moment of like, you know, I do love you, you know, but all of me, I tried, right? Like this is such a disappointing thing. And it does land, but it would have been nicer to see a little more of the two of them interacting, a little more of that, like wanting to please her. We know, and the movie infers that is there, but I think because they ended up cutting some of her storyline, because they had more planned for her as well.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the one place where like I was like, oh, I really wish we had more of that. There can always be like prequel, you know, for the ladies before, but I think in the moment I wanted to see more of their relationship, and we really only got like a scene of her, basically like two scenes of her basically always telling her to hide who she was.
Yeah.
And so I think the movie does itself just like a little disservice by like, so like Leia Salon was her voice. So like it would have been nice to have her do another song.
Yeah.
Saying like this is like
the
amazing.
only thing
so,
she gets
like,
is that little rhyme, you know?
Yeah,
like,
that's it.
It's insane.
So I'm just like, oh, this feels like a missed opportunity. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I will say that in terms of it being a movie that's like teasing a lot of stuff and then like giving us the potential for sequels, especially given how big of a hit, like it's not the worst approach in the world because it leaves us wanting more, and I think satisfies enough. Like you get enough of the story. Like there's a lot of interesting like little subtext things that are in this movie. Like for example, Zoe, who is established as being American, like she never raps in Korean in the entire movie.
Yeah. I think my semi hot take is that it might have worked better as a miniseries versus a movie, because you could have kept the episodes tight. You could have explored all of the things we talked about a little bit more: Celine's backstory, Zoe's, Mira's, even a little bit of that like historical context around the hunters, and it wouldn't have felt super long because you could do it in bite-sized segments. And it also, even the intro to me, I said this to Ben, feels like the intro to a TV show when it zooms underground and it says K-pop Demon Hunters.
Yeah,
that feels very television to me, and I could have seen it working really well as a miniseries.
I did see an interview where the creators did say that originally they had wanted to like kind of shit as a miniseries. So like originally in the original concept, that was behind it, but they ended up like Sony wasn't really interested in that. It was more interested in a film. And so they had to go where the investor was. So like who wants to help us make this? So they kind of streamlined it to make a movie. But originally there was thoughts of making it into like a series, because I believe it's Kupo and the Beats. That's, not Maggie, but her husband actually made that series that's on Netflix. And so they're not, as a couple, as two people who make stuff, they're not strangers to miniseries or series of animation, but we couldn't find funding for it to be made into anything other than a movie.
Which, at the end of the day, it's still an incredible piece of art. But it is sad to think about the things that don't get made in the medium, or, even made at all because of big corporations and money.
Yeah. Which plays into like the longer story of this movie, almost getting buried. Again, the rare Netflix win. Before we pivot too much from the music stuff, because I very much enjoying this little tangent into a key element of the movie, I want to go down the soundtrack, and I just kind of want to talk about each of these songs because I think they're just really fucking good.
Such a fun idea. I love that.
Yeah, like it's rare that we have a movie musical where like where I just want to talk about each song for a minute there, just because they're fucking great. So I've got the soundtrack list open here. So we're obviously going to start with How It's Done, which is the opening number of the movie. I recently tried to slip this track into a social media post I did for my day job, and was vetoed on that one.
Which
and
is
I am
dumb.
I know. I'm still so mad about that because it went so goddamn hard on the social media post about a drinking event, which I felt was good.
I felt like it was very on brand. And as someone who works in marketing, what I say is law.
But yeah, so How It's Done, it kicks off. They're supposed to be at their concert. They're running late because they've been diverted by demons, and it is a fight song while at the same time an introductory song to this group. It's such a banger. It goes so hard.
It's so freaking good.
Does such a great job of setting up like character moments for them. I love the fight choreography when we first are introduced to the girls, and like how their different fighting styles kind of work. Like Zoe being the grappler, getting in there, and Mira just like pummeling a demon,
and then like whipping out a glaive.
Yes.
Which is just delightful. Yeah, it's Also, the use of, you know, like more traditional animation styles for the facial expressions throughout, which is also extremely funny in the way that they sort of like will interject it for a brief moment and then
they do
go
that
right
throughout
back
the
into.
entire movie. Not
they
just,
also do that throughout the rest of it, but it's, you know, it's sort of your first experience with it. Yeah, a lot of fun. Also, the instrumentation is wonderful.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we have to shout out the viral line of this number, which is the fit check for my napalm era.
I can't wait to hear that when this comes out. I mean, it's
the rapping is also
so good,
fantastic.
Yeah,
in specifically this song.
Yeah, it's such a cool number. It's got a great beat for a fight.
Mm-hmm.
And so it opens up with that sort of, we're establishing like what this movie is, because they're on a plane, they fight demons, the plane falls apart, and then they crash land into their concert and just like pick up the microphones and continue the number undeterred.
And I also enjoy the audience commentary, like, wow, the special effects are so good.
Yeah.
When you hit that guy with the knife and he exploded into confetti, and they're like, yep, that was special effects, all confetti. Mm-hmm. Also, they stop and they finish their ramen before hopping out of the plane, which, you know, you got to respect. You got to respect making sure that you're fueled up for a concert.
Yeah.
Yep. I also love that right before the number starts, they tell their manager that they'll be at the concert in 3 minutes, and it's at like 2 minutes and 50 seconds that they actually like land.
Attention to detail is a beautiful thing.
Yes, it is.
It tells you so much about them. They're very punctual. It's down to a science, really. Like, the girls are professional. They are professional.
Yep. Yeah. So just great establishing moments for the characters. Like we get all the stuff that we need to know about the outward dynamic. We don't get the demon stuff for Rumi yet. There's only so much you can establish.
It also does a really great job of just like setting the foundation of demons aren't really an issue for these three girls in general, so that as you get further into the plot and they begin to struggle with what they're fighting, the stakes feel like they're there, and that you understand the scope in which this has increased in danger. Because like they're on an airplane that falls in half, they kill every demon and still get to the concert. And then later on, they are, you know, on the brink of defeat, and you can see how, you know, they got from point A to point B.
Right. Yeah. And it also wonderfully, because we talked about the confetti, it also establishes how the world, like the rest of the world, sees the demons.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, and so like that makes it really important, because it sets up the parameters of like what this reality is for the viewer in all different directions.
Mm-hmm.
Like it gives such a good explanation, like this opening scene of like what this world is actually like. So,
and they do a wonderful job of calling back to that later on when the girls are looking out the window and you can see the reflection of the Hanmoon being broken in some places, and Bobby's like, well, at least it's not the end of the world. Right. He can't see it. And I thought like that was such a good use of reflection versus what he sees, having already established that at the beginning of the movie. Yeah, they do a really nice job of tying all of the things together really beautifully.
Yeah, this song, like what you're saying with the like, helps us understand that they can see the Hanmoon in a way that no one else can, and that's such economic in storytelling.
Yeah,
they're literally showing you how it's done.
Yeah.
You don't say. That's crazy.
Why don't we move on? So I'm going to skip the ones that aren't actually like numbers in this. So like they play strategy by twice following this number, but it's like it's transition music basically.
Yeah.
The next big number is Golden, which is the, for lack of a better term, the break. Well, they're all such bangers, but like Golden is the one that I see the most Instagram videos of. I guess
like it's the flagship song.
Yeah,
for
which
the
I was
movie.
actually surprised. I will say, the first time we watched it, it felt like the kind of song that you would hear in the finale, and it happened so early in the film that I was like, "How are they gonna like? What's the finale song gonna be? How are they gonna top this?"
Spoiler alert! They did a great job.
Golden is
such a beautiful song.
Golden is technically the classic "I Want" song, so it's actually perfect where it is, right? Because even though she's saying what she is, this is actually aspirational for Rumi, because she doesn't necessarily believe that she's
That's a good
golden
point.
yet, right? So this is basically part of your world. This is the classic I want song. This sets up like where Rumi's mindset is, like where she wants to be. She wants to have a golden honeymoon. She wants to accept the responsibilities that have been thrust upon her, and she wants to show everyone that she can handle that. And like that's why this is such a like perfect song, and why people I think connect to it so much, because usually the I Want song in a musical is the most popular song that comes out of a musical, because it usually carries really the kernel of truth for the character that's going to carry you through the plot line. So like this is like that's why Golden resonates so much with people. And because it's not a clear like I want this, I want that, it tricks you because it just sounds like a great like K-pop anthem song.
I think
but it is really an I Want song.
Because of the conceit of the music competition at the end, I was expecting, which isn't to say that the song at the end isn't a banger, we'll get to that later, but like I was expecting the song that was the most musically evocative to be saved for the end. Like not necessarily, and you're right, it's a perfect I Want song, but also is just one of the easiest to listen to. So I was expecting that song was, or that type of song was going to be the type of song that was at the end to quote unquote like win the competition, to defeat the demons, to seal the honeymoon. But it ended up working better the way that it's set up in the movie, and it kind of subverted what my expectations musically were for that piece.
Yeah, one thing that is interesting about this movie is that they replay songs a few times, specifically this and Takedown. We get quite a bit of, and Soda Pop, I guess we get a bunch in the background. Because they're pop songs and they're earworms that play a lot. And so one thing I find fascinating is how they recontextualize the song depending on where it falls in the movie. Because when it first shows up, as I mentioned, this is a song that reiterates the exposition that we got at the beginning about the three girls. In the form of the song, they talk about their like supposed background problems that they've had. But then where it really turns into an I Want song is at the end, where we find out that there's like this greater context or greater subtext that Rumi has not shared with everyone, the demon stuff specifically here. And then when it's being used later, it's as like a cover, it's the facade that she's trying to put on. It's like that she wants everything to be golden, even though she knows that underneath it all, like she has this like greater like conflicted feelings at that point. And I find it amazing that you can have the same song just mean something so different depending on where it falls in the movie.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting too, because we were talking about the lack of exposition for like Mira and Zoe. Really, the only exposition we get about their backstories is in Golden.
Well, we get the fans talking about their backstories at the beginning, and then we get a little bit at like when they kind of come back together, not at the very end of the movie, but like when they come back together before going into performing Golden, where it's just like where they each mention the things that are sort of like the superficial details about them, like Mira being like, I'm kind of like hard to be around, I'm a problem child, yada yada yada, and Zoe being like, I was torn between two worlds. Like I don't think that they're very complex like in this movie, but I do think that the movie does a lot with the surface trait to layer them in interesting ways. Like I mentioned, the Zoe only raps in English because she's American part of it, or the way that like Mira is the most physical of them in the dance sequences because she is the choreographer for the group.
Yeah.
Why don't we move on to Soda Pop?
What a just a gem of a song.
It's so goddamn catchy. And what I love is that everyone knows that it's catchy. Like the movie knows that it's catchy. Mm-hmm. It's catchy on purpose. And it's supposed to be, this like saccharine sweet thing that not like overly sweet, like a love song kind of thing.
No, but saccharine's perfect. It's artificial sweetener.
Yeah.
Right.
It's the stevia of songs.
But it's so good. Like,
it is.
Even though I know that it is not musically complex and I know that it is not great composition or great writing, I still want to listen to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or I guess
I would
not
argue
to
that's
say
the
not
hallmark
great composition,
yeah, I was
but
gonna say,
not
I think that's the
complex
hallmark of great composition.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. Great is the wrong word. Complex.
But the song is no more than exactly what it needs to be, right? Like they even give you easy enough choreography that as a viewer, there is something that you can do without training to bop along just like they do in the movie. And it is very, very aware, which I think is great. Like,
Well,
your kids are going to be listening to this forever. Well, at least you can all do something with your shoulders and feel like you're part of it.
And it's also intentionally accessible and intentionally meant to draw people in and to give them something that they can do because of the goals of the Saja boys. So it works on multiple levels.
It sort of makes you part of almost part of the fandom or the movie as you're
join the movement.
Experiencing it as a
Isn't
viewer.
that what they say?
Yeah.
Join the movement, literally.
Is it join the pride?
Don't they say join the movement too?
Is it
Yes.
the movement first and the pride later?
Yeah.
Yeah, they say both.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
It is funny because definitely there were people online after the movie was on was like, well, I know that I would be dead. I would totally, I was into both of those songs. I would definitely be a Sacha Boy fan and I would be dead. And I was like, wow.
Well, there's also this
guys.
sort of piece of this, which is that at least, oh my God, what is his name? Help, lead Sacha Boy.
Ginu.
At least, so there's this component, which is that Ginu, at least out of them, is genuinely a musician, right? Like he's genuinely someone who wants to produce music, who music is his passion. So there's that level too, where it's like someone finally getting to live out this dream that they've had for, I don't know, decades.
Centuries.
Centuries. Centuries, not decades. That's the wrong measure of time. But there's this weird sort of actualization of an undeath goal that's happening as well.
I also love that for generations, the hunters have used music as a means of controlling the demon threat. And it has taken this long for someone to finally go, hey, what if we just did that back?
Right.
And then to watch how completely unprepared they are for the threat of more music. Yeah, hot boy. Yeah, abs.
This is a good moment to bring up the different Sacha boys because we referenced Ginu. I love that we get very economically all of the Sacha boys. They have a trait and a name associated with it. So we get
Delightful.
Abby, who is known for his abs. We got Romance, who probably has the least going on in terms of stuff. They do a really good job of Romance having very empathetic kind of facial expressions, and Romance is one of the one who does kisses and the hearts fly off.
Yeah, his hair is also shaped like a heart.
Yes.
Yes. So
then there's Mystery, who also doesn't get a lot going on in this, but has the benefit of being a mystery.
Is there any, and not in the movie, but okay, sorry.
Sorry, I'm just laughing at
But is there any sort of lore around them that has been released or talked about in any capacity, or is it really just what you see in the film?
I've seen analyses of them, but I haven't seen anything that's official canon lore kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then the last of them is Baby Sacha, who's the rapper of the group, which I find very fun.
Goo Goo Gaga.
with the very deep voice.
Yes, very deep voice. And in contrast with Zoe, raps quite a bit in Korean.
Yeah.
Which is a fun detail. One thing I saw as a sort of breakdown was them as obviously archetypes of boy bands is part of it, but also specifically toxic masculinity traits. So Ginu is sort of the synthesis of all of them, but we've got physicality, we've got sort of romantic side of it, the mystery side of it, and then the infantilization of toxic masculinity in there, which I thought was very interesting.
Well, yeah. And
but I don't know if that's
K-pop fans have also kind of broken this down too as to be kind of talking about the K-pop industry itself. So basically, because a lot of the times the groups are very manufactured, right? And sometimes they'll even tell people that they have to have a specific personality. So a lot I've seen breakdown from fans talking, especially about Baby, as there is a lot of infantilization that happens in the K-pop industry. Like, pop idols are often asked to shave their armpits and be hairless, even like for guys, because like hair of any kind, you have to be clean shaven, you can't grow a beard. So there is like a very like, there are a lot of fans that kind of like look at that stuff and like kind of say, yeah, there's a couple of things that they personally felt like looked like call outs of the industry and like the ills of the industry, kind of putting people in boxes and, that kind of thing, and over sexualizing them like you would do with Abby, and, just used to like, yeah, go ahead, look at my abs, it's fine. And so I have seen people online kind of, again, not canon based, like this is not anything that the creators have stated that this is like the truth. And they probably just like looked at people and was like, oh yeah, we gotta have some guy with abs, because in every group there's at least one person who's gonna have abs and take off their shirt. And like Felix from Stray Kids, it looks very ethereal and he has a very deep voice, so a lot of those fans are like, yeah, that's probably based on him because he freaks everyone out with his deep voice because he looks like a fae. And so like, I do think that there is something possibly there, because it's not, there are people that are seeing this and kind of like connecting those dots. It's not out of the realm of them.
It's also interesting juxtaposed to, again, to go back to Mira and Zoe and how they are not particularly like fleshed out, but when you juxtapose them to the not fleshed out Saja boys, you have these two women who have overcome something and are using art to talk about that, versus these very archetypal, like soulless sort of products of the music machine, so to speak.
Yeah.
So despite the fact that like on both sides you don't get a ton of backstory and a ton of context, they still juxtapose each other in this incredibly stark way, which again you see in the music, and you see in terms of even like the way that they interact publicly with fans and with the press and that sort of thing.
Yeah, even how they act when they're no longer. I thought actually this is like a really nice touch in the animation when the Saja boys, like when they're on like in front of people, humans that they want to impress, they all stand up straight. But a lot of times when they're walking away, they're kind of hunched over, kind of like zombies walking away, like, oh, this is my true self.
Slouchy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think that's like,
well, they have like a demon
thing.
look, like just to back you up, Sam, like when they're in their demon form in the underworld, they all have this like slouchy kind of design, and they're like when they come off stage after doing the signing and they all have like flowers, each one drops a flower and then immediately goes into hunch mode.
Yeah. Finally comfortable.
Yeah, like when you take your shoes off at the end of a long day and you're like, oh, this is the best. It's like clearly that moment of release where they're like, yes, no longer do I have to pretend to give two craps about any of these people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we swear on this show?
Oh yeah, of course.
Two shits about any of these people.
Yeah. Two tubs of a dead dog's cock.
And to that point, the Huntrix girls love their fans so much that they cannot take a break from creating music because of the love for their fans.
Right. Yeah, that's
stark
true.
contrast right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, I these aren't like, subtle things. Like these are very clear juxtapositions that exist on the surface of the movie. I'm not like tapping into something crazy right now.
Right. Yeah.
No, but it's very on point. Like the whole thing with the Saja boys is like they are supposed to be this manufactured boy band group that is soulless and actually drains the creativity from the people around them. In contrast with the girls who are trying to inspire everyone and make everyone feel good in a way that protects you from your inner demons. Yeah. Why don't we move on to Takedown, which is the Huntrix response to the boys?
Oh wait, one moment before we move on. I just want to say, because like this is like I actually really loved this. It's just like such intentional soundtrack, and because it came just before Soda Pop, when they play "Love Maybe," which is just a Korean song. That song was in a Netflix show, which was a show that the person who voices Jinwoo was the star of. K-drama that he was the star of.
Oh, nice.
And they purposely used that hated the introduction with classic like K-drama introduction because he knocks into her and usually like that's the meet cute and they like reach out a hand and pick her up and like that's always like one of the tropes in K-dramas. But then of course he's just like psych. But I love that they use that because for people who like watch K-dramas and know the voice actor, that was like a really big treat for them. And so put on the soundtrack all the way around, even with the background music.
Yeah, I love that I didn't know that specific context, but I still got the vibe of the scene.
That was what I was just about to say, was that you don't need to know that for the subversion of the trope to read perfectly.
Right. It just adds like a little Easter egg for people who know.
Yeah.
It was actually a pretty popular show on Netflix in terms of like K-drama watchers. And it's tied in with Netflix.
So cool.
Branding.
I feel like I've seen enough, like telenovelas to know that from just other kinds of sort of like similar media, right? But that's amazing. Also, yeah. I feel like the like tagline to this movie is that attention to detail pays off in the long run.
Yes.
Like things like tying in previous work of the voice actor, or when you say we'll be there in 3 minutes and then they land just before that 3-minute mark. Like there is so much of that throughout the movie where you're getting these like little things that they then deliver on in some way.
Yeah.
And I think that is one of the things about the movie that is the most satisfying, is you kind of walk away from being like, okay, cool. You really did tie up all the things that you needed to tie up. And then things that I didn't even know.
Well, that's a sign of good art, right?
Yeah.
That you don't need to get every single little thing to enjoy it. But when you start to dig in and start to uncover them, it just makes it better.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very media literate piece.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But now it's time for a takedown. Takedown.
Honestly, some of the worst lyrics in the whole movie, and I hate to say that, but the lyric writing for this song just grinds me the wrong way.
We've had a number of conversations about that.
Yeah. I mean, this is the other song that gets like a real difference of context because it's played 3 major times. Mm-hmm. And has sort of a different vibe for each time, even though there isn't any sort of fundamental change in like the delivery of things. And then gets to be the credit song with Twice performing it at the end.
Yeah.
So I mean the lyrics are very on the nose, and it's fun like watching the girls like kind of conceive of lines as we go, and then seeing how they actually translate into the song form, where it's just like, how about a demon with no feelings doesn't deserve to live? It's so obvious, and then like that actually like turns into like a fairly good lyric. So I think that's fun, and it's used really well as the montage for like the escalating conflict between the Huntrix and the Sasha boys, and then for when Rumi is having her own moment of doubt on the train fight, it's used well there, but has this sort of like this different kind of this feeling of, I'm trying to avoid saying vibe every single time, like where she falters and where the other team picks up the slack is really interesting. And then it's used as the betrayal song in the Idol Awards, where it's just Mira and Zoe in like the demon avatars pretending to be them, and makes it so aggressive, and it turns into a breakup song.
Yeah.
And, I just ragged on the lyrics of this, but I do wonder if it's not also a bit intentional.
Yes.
In the sense of like, this isn't the type of music that these girls are good at creating or like are meant to be creating. Because I'm thinking, again, not to juxtapose everything, but if you juxtapose it to your idol and the lyrics for your idol, which are so well crafted, and like you almost miss some of the like double entendres and the ways in which things are just like perfectly like placed both musically and lyrically. And that is the Sasha boys in their element, right? Like doing what they do best. Whereas Huntrix, they're not supposed to be performing takedown songs. They're supposed to be performing songs like Golden. So there may be a bit of intentionality there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
and
Rumi,
also you can see Rumi rewriting the song.
Yes.
And it's partially a rejection of the words because they're making her feel bad because she's kind of coming to terms with like what she really is and who she really is. And she's also lying. So there's like a sense of guilt. But the song, I think, never feels not awkward because it is also awkward for us as the viewers because we're watching her struggle with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I take it back. I think I think it's brilliant. I think it's great.
Well, I mean, the two things can be true, right? Like it is as far as the girls are concerned, it is the weakest song that they perform in the show or in the movie. And it is therefore a phenomenal example of how you use music to convey discomfort or people being out of their element or dealing with inner turmoil around something that is happening.
Well, still being a really fun song to listen to. All of that to say, it's still good music.
Yeah. Just, but yeah, I mean, like the girls are not intended to be so hateful, and Rumi ruminates on that.
Rumi ruminates.
Yes. Let's move on to Free.
It's a beautiful song.
It's very pretty. It's different. I mean, I think this is getting into that whole, like, this is very like literate in the genre of K-pop. And so trying to do different styles of songs within it, I think is really good there. It's so different because it's not one of the two groups. It's the fusion of the two of them. I
don't know that I know enough about K-pop to be able to like one-to-one compare it stylistically to like what it's mirroring.
I was kind of hoping Sam was going to jump in there.
Sam, help.
No pressure. Carry us through this song, Sam.
Honestly, there's definitely always, sometimes you'll just have a collab between two main singers. And honestly, like, the one thing that is like what I miss in our like musical zeitgeist is I kind of missed the big power ballads as a child of the 80s. And so, but in K-pop, like when there is a lot of times when two groups are very popular, they will go off and you'll have two people kind of pair off to do a duet. And a lot of times, because K-pop is just Korean music, Western music made Korean, it's very often that there will be like just a duet that will just be like kind of a beautiful ballad with power behind it at the end. So I'm trying to think of like anyone specific, but like off the top of my head, I can't really think of a specific like duet. I mean, I'm sure IU has had a few because she sings mostly like very like lyrical kind of melodic things. Ali is a big voice. She's actually Korean American, and she has done a lot of duets, and she's done a lot of like soundtracks for Korean shows. And yeah, it's very popular, especially anything that's going to be in a show. They'll have a pop artist do the big song. Theo from EXO has had a lot of duets with a lot of different people. And so this is not uncommon, especially for like a guy and girl to be paired up to do like a big duet that is very, lyrical and just melodic. And yeah, it's very common.
Yeah. Yeah. Just a very pretty track.
Mm-hmm. I think it feels like it's the first point in the movie where there is some level of acceptance internally from Rumi. There is this moment of aspiration.
A harmony, yes.
I hate it here. And it's also,
this is Juno's I Want song, though.
Yes, exactly. Right. Like this is his aspirational song. And so you have this moment where there isn't a drive to steal the Hanmoon. There isn't drive to steal souls. There isn't drive to take down the demons. There isn't any of that stuff going on. And I think that lends itself to that, this very like beautiful lyrical song where you just kind of the way that I would describe it is sort of when you are at the top of like a swing and you have that moment of weightlessness. And I feel like this song is that moment for the movie where they both get to have this. Weightless. Yeah, I mean, they are flying, right? Like they are literally weightless during it. Yeah, absolutely. But I think for the whole movie, it feels like there's that moment where you get this like, oh, maybe, where things kind of just hang in the air for a moment. And I think they do a great job with the animation, and the song sort of fits that space perfectly. And then,
yeah, the art in that is so beautiful. Sorry, go ahead. I just
it's okay. You're right. You were right to interrupt me. That was a perfect comment. But what I was gonna say is it's also this like kind of beautiful moment for the both of them, because there's this acknowledgement, right? So we kind of need this moment because we don't really have, I mean, like, although they've kind of been kind of working together, meeting, kind of like flirting, this is the moment that we're really getting like a true connection between the two of them, because they see a possibility beyond the roles that they are assigned already, as a demon hunter or as a demon burdened with like the guilt of his past. This is like, without this, again, the movie doesn't work, right? Because we need this song to kind of make sure that we understand how bonded they are. Because this is really gonna, this song is what makes it hurt, since, like, just screws her over. This is the song because it's so hopeful. He's admitting that, like, being next to her for the first time in centuries, he sees the possibility of something different, and even a person who's different would, like, within himself. Like this idea that all of these things that plague his brain, like all the things, like all the evil thoughts that Guima like repeats in his head, would believe him, and that he could just like be something good and be something better. And that's what this song represents, right? Like this idea of like, let's put down our burdens and just be good together. Like, it doesn't matter if we're both troubled. Like, let's just be good together. And like, so that really sets us up for the heartbreak very shortly after.
Well, it's interesting too, because while it's Jinu's aspirational song, it's still very in line with like Rumi's idea of being free is getting rid of the demon part of herself. So it's still, she hasn't turned the corner on that character arc yet, even though it feels like that moment of weightlessness and that moment of like room to breathe and like freedom. Her goal for freedom is still oppositional to what her eventual sort of like denouement character like resolution is going to be.
Right. She still wants to be golden. Like, she still wants to be that. She doesn't, she's actually running away in this song when he's running to something.
Yes.
Yeah, I do. The soundtrack's so good. It's so good. So then we get the reprise of both Golden and Takedown, which we've already talked about. And then we get the big Sasha Boy concert and we get Your Idol. And goddamn, we've already alluded to this. Good. The fucking lyrics in this are so like good. They're on the nose, but they are so good. Like, you gave me your heart, now I'm here for your soul. Like, Jesus Christ.
It's the like playing with the words in a way where it's like, yeah, a boy band could be singing this, but also so could a bunch of demons who want your souls. Yeah. Like, it really beautifully just sitting on that line while being accurate on both sides.
Yeah, like it's such a cool number. Like they seem so cool during the whole thing. So my Instagram feed has been like flooded with K-pop Demon Hunter stuff. And one of the reels I saw that was just hilarious was like someone who went to get popcorn in the middle of the Sasha Boy number and like comes back and like it's just a person like reacting, being like, oh, everyone's like kind of just like really digging it, and like, oh, they're flying.
Yeah, there's a lot of hand waving by audience members in this movie.
Well, I think
at
that point they've all kind of become thralls.
I mean, certainly, yes,
yeah.
I do think it's also interesting in one of the verses they say very specifically, "Don't let it show, keep it all inside. The pain and the shame, keep it out of sight," which is a very close paraphrase of, I forget what the exact quote is, from the previous generational hunter that she like always repeats.
Our thoughts and feelings must never be heard.
Yes.
Yeah. And I thought it was very interesting. They're like, oh, we're going to put something, and it's like not quite the same, but is very much a reference to that, repeated phrase that we keep hearing that is causing, Rumi to have all of this angst around her existence.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just.
I really love too that they put them in traditional garb, especially the garb that would have been around for nobles when Jinu was alive. And I think that's really cool too.
Yeah, it's a really cool number. I really love the Baby Sasha breakout. Like, got me going virally. Like, licks his claws. Like,
and also it's great that they, that the animators let them look more their demon selves.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
there's more demon elements to them. And like, of course, the audience, because we know this world, right? It's just going to assume that this is part of the costume, part of the concept. We know that this is like a full embrace, like of love, like everything. But I think that's also why I love that they put him in more of the traditional garb, because it's almost like Genu is like back to who he was before he decided to before he sang free. Like he's back on track.
Yeah. Ben, I don't know if you remember this, and if you don't, we can cut it because it's going to be nothing. But we watched this video about the choices in the chord progression in this song, and it was super interesting, and I can't remember anything about it. Do you remember this at all?
I do not remember. Fuck. I know exactly what you're talking about. There's this guy that I don't know if we follow. I think we have followed him at this point, and his whole thing is talking about the way that compositions will use either chord progressions or like motifs. Hitting specific notes, motifs, or like coming back to like a tonic on like the use of the word home, for example. Just actually, as a bit of an aside, just to bring it back to our pre-opening conversation about Hercules. No, not Peppa Pig, about Hercules. And that was I think the first video that I saw was him being like, yeah, when he says, you know, like, in Find My Way, when he says the word home, he's on the tonic, right? He has come home melodically and harmonically as he is saying it. And so that's sort of the analysis that he does. And I wish that I remembered, because
it was really interesting and super really cool. Good. And the people who composed it are really smart.
Yeah. Well,
attention to detail.
They used the Catholic chant at the beginning.
Yes.
The Day of Wrath.
Yeah, like the Gregorian.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, and that's so great. They use the Day of Wrath in the beginning, because this is a King of Souls. That's what this is. That's what this concert is that they've invited people to.
This is what Christians think pop music is.
Right.
Yes, suck it, Christians.
Not all Christians.
No, all Christians.
The Catholics are fine with all this stuff. It's fine.
No, so I tried to explain this movie to my sister, who is currently on a very Christian bent, and she was like, I don't know if I want to watch a movie about demons. And I'm like, it's not okay.
It's not really what it's, but yeah, fair. Okay.
Like, it's more about pop music.
And about demons using pop music to influence the youths.
Does it help if they lose?
That was the thing that like surprised me. I'm like, it's Demon Hunters.
Yeah, the demons are bad, not good.
Right. But the songs are good.
You will like the demons.
Right.
Yeah,
they just go away.
There are some very sympathetic demons in this movie.
Several. Yeah. Well, yeah. Why don't we move on to the last major number, which is What It Sounds Like?
The first time that we watched it, I don't know how I didn't, not that I didn't think it was good, but like I did not appreciate how good it was until the second time we watched it. And I was like, this is maybe the best number in the whole movie. Like the percussion and the choral element and the builds and the sort of like, God, I don't even know, like the release, like it's such a perfect way to finish out this very epic story with this incredibly epic piece of music that also, like, obviously, like, thematically is Rumi's decision to come to terms with who she is, and same with Mira and with Zoe and the defeating of Guima. But like beyond that, just musically, it gives me goosebumps. Like I have listened to this song on repeat while I was climbing because it, one, makes me try hard, and two, just like it makes my brain so happy.
Yeah, it's a great workout song. Like it really just pumps you up just remarkably.
I want to call out specifically the unaccompanied chord that they hit when they sing "This Is What It Sounds Like" at the very beginning.
Yeah.
Which I don't even have to be able to, I don't have to listen to it to hear it and get goosebumps from how beautiful that moment of harmony as the three of them reconnect is. Like truly a stunning use of harmonics to convey how powerful that is, especially at that point in the movie.
Yeah, especially because they're coming back together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The build up to that very epic part takes a really long time. Like Ben and I were listening to it in the car because like that part is so satisfying, and we were like, oh wow, they take a really long time to get there. You're just kind of like in anticipation for like, I don't know, 2/3 of the song, which I'm sure is intentional, but it really does make it that much sweeter when everything comes together and you get that choral sort of just like repetition of the chorus, and it's so good.
Yeah, it's because they're winning people back over.
Yeah.
You know, like first they have to win each other back, right? Like in that very beginning, and then they come together. Yeah, and then they basically have to like state their case, and then by the end, like people are snapping out of it and remembering what it's like to just be human and not listen to these voices in your head, whatever insecurities, right? Because that's how Guima gets you with your insecurities, the things that you feel really bad about, the guilt that you have, your shame. And so like, it's such a beautiful, I actually cried the first time we were together. But it's just such a wonderful build and such a really exciting thing, and
epic. It's so epic.
And it's all those people like waking up and singing along with them, and you know,
and there are hordes of demons that they fight and kill in it. Like, just emphasizing like there's so much going on in it at this crazy fucking concert that ends with them flying somehow.
and the guy who keeps changing shirts every time he switches band allegiance.
Yes,
so much happening.
It's
fantastic.
Almost evocative of like a Viking war chant.
Yeah, so just a lot of fun. I really dig this number. I dig every number in this movie. This is why I wanted to talk about the soundtrack. It's a really good soundtrack. Yeah, no, just super solid. Yeah, I don't know if I have anything else to say about that though, beyond just like fuck, it's good.
I mean, I
wish that my music theory wasn't 15 years lapsed, because I feel like I'd have a lot more interesting and intelligent thoughts.
Googling to see if I could pull up anything at all about the use of dissonance and the harmonies in that last song, and I can't find anything fast enough, unfortunately. But yeah, that song goes so friggin' hard. Holy guacamole!
Yeah. I mean, I love the lyric, "Show me what's underneath, I'll find your harmony." Like,
yeah.
Like real, and you know, it concludes with them not having a golden Hanmoon. It concludes with them having a rainbow Hanmoon, like a very different kind of thing. Like it's the new structure that they've built instead of what they thought, which was this facade that buried their shame and made them, in a certain sense, like the same as the demons. Now it's like, no, we're going to accept who we are, and we're going to accept all of who we are.
Yeah.
And the fact that it has that choral element, which is bringing the fans into the music as well. So it's just like, not to be incredibly corny, but just like this massive group acceptance, because it's not just about them, right? It's about every single person who is in that stadium.
Yeah, because at the end, it's literally everyone clapping together, everyone singing along with it. That's the Hanmoon. It's, you know, which is very different than the Sasha Boys. The Sasha Boys want you to get their earworm stuck in your head, but it's not about everyone coming together.
And the choir is what makes that song so great.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that song would not be nearly as emotionally moving and impactful as it is if it wasn't for the choral element.
Yeah. Also in the chorus, hidden, laced in there, is a callback to the original Hunter song that you hear at the beginning of the movie. It's very light, and it's basically like the "Together We Light Up in the Darkness." It's in the background, and it's one of the things that EJ really tried to insert into the song, because she wanted to call back to that, because it's based on a traditional Korean lullaby. So she wanted to intertwine that back in, so that there was a callback to the original Hunters at the end. Like, the girls had summoned that to bring forth this rainbow honeymoon that would be for everyone, even broken people. So
what a good movie.
Yeah. It's such a good movie. Why don't we pause here and do a shout out for one of the shows on our network? When we come back, we can continue our conversation about the movie.
Cool.
No.
I overrule you.
I mean, fair enough. It's your show. I guess you get to do that.
Do you have a comic book you just can't stop thinking about? One that stuck with you years later? On Trade School, guest hosts get the mic to talk about a graphic novel that changed the way they see the world, or just made them fall in love with comics all over again. In just 5 to 15 minutes, you'll hear stories about the stories that real people love the most. Trade School, a short-form ongoing series about the comic book trade paperbacks we love and why we love them. Find it wherever you get your podcasts.
Speaking of buttery, let's slide back into this conversation.
Yeah.
Right? I hate myself.
No, that's a better intro back into the episode than I was going to give. So let's roll with that one.
Oh, no.
Yeah, but I can't believe you accepted that and you couldn't accept In Harmony. I mean, like, come on.
If I make the pun, I will accept it. But if you steal the pun from me and I didn't think of it, I will be resentful.
I see.
Yeah, I reserve the right to resent when somebody comes up with a pun that I missed. That's
So the normal premise for a 5th episode of this show is that we look at movies that had a hard time behind the scenes and then were successful up front. It's the proof of concept.
Oh, you're right. We haven't done any of that at all yet, have we?
No, we've just been talking about the soundtrack the whole time.
Yeah. I'm getting to it. Like the idea is that this is the proof of concept for the show. And that said, this was the kind of movie that when I did my initial surface research, it was like, oh yeah, that's going to be perfect, because this was a movie that was undervalued by the production putting it together. It was delayed a bit, and just generally you would think, okay, well, that sounds like there were some problems. The flip side of that is that everyone involved were super professional and super capable, and it came together like a fucking miracle. The only big thing is that Sony didn't think that an Asian focused movie like this was going to be a hit, and that's why it got dumped on Netflix instead. But Netflix knew what they were doing, and like, again, big W for Netflix, pushed the shit out of it, and it's become a cultural phenomenon. Meanwhile, on the background production side of things, this is very much a musical, and it wasn't initially conceived as being as much a musical. But the flip side is that they found EJ, and that they both found a person who could write amazing K-pop music for them and also perform amazing K-pop music for them. And so from the standpoint of trying to like fit this into the round hole of a 5th episode with this extremely square peg of just solid production, I think we can do it, but I will be upfront that most of the things I read were just like, yeah, they're very talented people who made this movie. Like that's the case. So it's kind of funny on that front in terms of like what's the actual situation here. So why don't we just talk about what else works in this movie, because it's a lot of things that work. We talked about the music. I think the animation's really cool. I don't have enough of an animation background to like get into like the frame rate kind of situation, but there's something I don't know because I want to say like, is it on the 2s or something like that? But I like this is just jargon that I've absorbed that I don't actually like have enough familiarity to like properly explain. But like there's like a rhythm to it that is it's not overly fluid motion. There's like a little bit of a chop on purpose in that I find really appealing. Now it is Sony. It's the same studio that made Into the Spider-Verse. So like we're talking about a really quality production team in that regard. But I think that the animation looks great. I think the fight choreography looks great. I think the dancing choreography looks great. I mean, the Saja Boy choreography you see all over the fucking place with people imitating that dance because it's so goddamn good. It's just a good looking movie.
Yeah. I love also with the animation that they, especially with the Saja boys, they put in little touches here and there, even in Soda Pop, where they like bend their legs like in an unreasonable angle at some point when they're up on top of something. And if you put on the freeze frame, it looks so odd, but like it was just like, yeah, they're demons. And they just always do that all the time with them. And I think that that's really great. There's a lot of details in the animation.
And the thing I want to bring back the thing that Ben mentioned, which is the switching of animation styles to show different different sort of like emotional states. It's also I believe in a combo of 2 and 3D, right? If I'm not completely mistaken.
Oh, of hand-drawn animation with like 3D backgrounds?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And so you end up with like several different art styles that are I have to assume I'd have to rewatch it, but like used to convey different either thematic or emotional things.
Yeah. I actually also really loved it. Like there's a scene when the girls are kind of Zoe and Mira are kind of confronting Mira, and it's early in the morning and they're all not wearing makeup and their faces are clearly so bare. Like they even have like little like dark spots under their eyes. Like and I just like, oh, that's so nice because like it's just like, oh, they seem so much more real. They're just adding this detail that's really cool.
Yeah, they do. They have that scene where like Bobby comes in and they're all like covered with like scars and stuff, and they like immediately make up their faces to like hide it.
Yeah.
One thing that I read about this movie was that there was a goal of not having a very female gaze for the characters, that they're not supposed to be sex objects. They're not supposed to be like they're hot and they're cute and they're all these things, but they're also allowed to be a little gross. Like one of the first introductory scenes for them is like them stuffing their face with food.
So funny.
And then immediately interrupting a demon with belching is supposed to be like, okay, this is the tone of the movie. It's a little lighthearted. These characters are allowed to be kind of fun and goofy and a little bit weird, in addition to like this very put together pop star kind of facade.
It's also interesting because of like that, stuffing the face animation. In a lot of ways, the 3D animation is sort of replicating old school 2D animation. So like almost like returning back to what animation used to look like before it went for the sort of like hyper realistic computer generated, not hyper realistic, that's not right, but more realistic, less sort of cartoony type of animation style.
Yeah, it looks like just proper, anime. And there are a lot where the like exaggerated facial expressions that they make at various points, whether it's celebrating like couch time, or in the elevator when they're yelling about, I forget exactly what it is they're yelling about, but like the exaggerated facial expressions or like veins, whatever, it's very, it's very traditional animation, as opposed to like what you were just saying in terms of the more like three-dimensional, going for more of a realistic slant on the animated style.
I mean, the thirst popcorn eyes is hilarious.
Oh, so funny.
I think that the movement is also, the dancing is also very interesting because the fact that like it is both replicatable on human bodies, but also like when you're watching it feels so impossible. It like strikes this balance of making them look incredibly talented, but also still staying grounded in physics and what human bodies can do. Because like even for me, someone who danced, like when I first watched the dance sequences, I was like, I don't know how anyone in their right mind could pick up that choreography. And then you see all these people on like TikTok and Instagram who are able to watch it and to break it down, to learn the sequences. So it is very doable, but when you're just watching it in the film, it's like, this is insane. I don't know how people could move their bodies like this.
Smash cut to some 6-year-old doing it perfectly, and you're like, okay, kid.
And I'm like, okay, I guess people can move their bodies like that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, they did have like two, I mean, because animators always use reference people anyway. So they did have two choreographers who did work on choreography for reference. I mean, they even did the flying, I'm sure. But
what?
they did have like two people like come in and kind of work on that stuff so that it could feel, and these are choreographers who work in the K-pop scene already, so trying to keep that authenticity, within the film and kind of keep it within that K-pop culture. They did that, so that's kind of cool, and I think that's maybe part of the reason why that it's just like, oh yeah, real people could do that, except for the flying bits.
Except for the flying bits,
right?
But even just the way that they move and like the shapes that their bodies make aren't necessarily I mean, it's animation, right? Like it's not human, it's not natural, but the fact that it started with humans and then is able to then transfer back to humans, I find to be very satisfying.
I love that there are people who have made breakdown videos of the dances for other people who want to learn them. Like that's such a K-pop fandom thing to do, because this actually happens for real. Like fans will release a dance and there's always heavy choreography, and then like better dancers will go online and they will make a breakdown video, and then K-pop fans will meet before a concert and they will just dance in front of the concert with a choreography that they've learned. That's part of the culture, so it fits right into the fandom kind of part of K-pop.
Yeah.
Come full circle.
Yeah. Well, I feel like that goes back to like boy bands in general. Well, like pop in general. Like in high school, like I was in high school during like the heyday of like the NSYNC era, and there was a group of guys that I went to school with who like memorized the dances, and at every like school dance would like do perfect choreography to an NSYNC number. So I wonder if that is just a part of pop culture.
Yeah.
Dealing with music, and this movie is just very on the pulse.
I also, this is away from the movement aspect, but I think especially given that you said like it shows up in the children's section of Netflix, the fact that the demons aren't designed to be terrifying, like they're very demonic looking, but they're not scary. Like you're not gonna have nightmares after you watch this movie, right? And that feels like it must be very intentional with the character design for all of those creatures, because it if you're gonna have kids watching this, you can't be giving, I mean you can, I certainly watched things that gave me nightmares as a child, but it feels like it plays into that family friendly like ethos of this.
Yeah
I mean, for a thing that's very about fighting demons, like one thing we haven't really talked about is that this movie is really funny.
Yeah. Oh, the demons on the plane might be second favorite to the Saja Boy Demon fan. Funny. Second favorite to the Saja Boy Demon fan, because he's like, I mean, honestly, crying every time with 2 light sticks. Love, 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 love. I live for that demon. Just watering a plant with coffee, automatically
Incredible
hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't necessarily portray the demons as, I don't want to say not malicious, because like obviously there is an element of malice to the way in which they operate, but
people do go missing. That is a thing that is stated at some point, that missing,
but they go missing as opposed to dead.
That's
like
fair.
They seem to be absorbed by the demons as opposed to being like murdered by them.
It also it's all in service of Guima, right? Like, and maybe this is additional lore that will get explored in other iterations or movies or whatever it is, but it doesn't seem like the demons need human souls to survive. It seems like Guima wants them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's what it feels like. And it's like he owns them, because he owns their shame. So I will say that overall, I think the demons feel incompetent.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It almost feels like taking like a bunch of interns and making them manage a company.
Well, I had a very Power Rangers kind of vibe to like the demon dynamic, where it's like, oh, you failed. Let me guess, you failed. Like that they're constantly invading our world and being sent back by this Sentai team.
And it almost makes you feel sorry for them. Like it's a bit of an abusive managerial relationship that they're in.
For sure. He was not a good boss.
I like how I fully transitioned this to like this is a corporation that is being run by Quima.
And there is no HR. Like there's none.
There's no HR.
They also do an interesting job, and I have to assume that it's intentional, of over the course of the movie making the demons a little bit more human in terms of the way that they are acting. Right, like you have all these fanboys and fangirls of Huntrix on the outside that are people, right? And you've got like the guys that cry over them, and the guy who got a tattoo, and you've got the guy who changes his shirt constantly, who is hilarious. But then you go to the demon realm, and they are all doing the exact same thing for the Saja boys, which I thought was an interesting way of being able to highlight that there is some amount of commonality that is split between the two. Also, I wanted to say, while we're talking about people who are incompetent or competent, I appreciated the fact that Bobby is incredibly competent as opposed to being the usual like bumbling manager. He is always on top of things. He always has things ready to go. And it is just sort of breezing through managing what is the largest K-pop group in the world, as opposed to like, okay, but have any of us actually taken a step back to ask like how this incompetent person is theoretically managing this like giant group? It's like, no. The person who's running this group deserves to be here. He's great at his job and takes care of the characters. And they, in turn, clearly have a lot of love and respect for him, as opposed to the sort of like denigrating relationship where they're just kind of like, oh, well, yeah, we tolerate that guy, which I thought was a nice thing for them to just be like, hey, we won't lean into that for this movie.
Maybe if Guimad had a Bobby, they would have broken
Honestly,
through the Han Moon.
He almost had a Bobby.
He did.
That's true. That is true.
Shrimp and a Bobby. I don't know why that popped in my head.
No, but that's true. Bobby's great and is a source of, like, you pointed out the scene where like he just like, I just need to clear my head and look out at the city. It's not the end of the world. And then you see the reflection on the girl's face, and it's the Han Moon being like ripped apart.
It's like on fire.
Yeah.
Bobby's the best.
And Bobby's a source of a lot of the comedy in the movie as well. Like, you know, we get the scene where they're practicing gold and he like smacks the cameraman by accident. You know, we have the spot where it's like, all right, just envision that there aren't thousands of fans out there that are really scary. And then it's like cuts to the security. It's like, there are thousands of fans and they're really scary.
Poor Bobby.
Yeah, I love those moments.
He's so lovable.
In the mythology that they are pulling from, this is something that I've probably should have Googled and already have the answer to, but I find it interesting that we sort of have two different designs for the demons. We've got
this is a long-standing conversation.
It's a conversation we've
Okay,
talked
so
about
like
a
their
lot.
demon form versus their pattern form?
Well, there's the pattern form, the demon form, but then we also never see like Jinu or the other Saja boys in a pure demon form. Is the idea that they have three different states, or is the idea that there are some demons that are humans that have like made this deal with Guima, and other demons that are like of that realm?
I think the latter.
Okay. Then why don't we see any more besides
Human
the Saja
demons?
boys? Yeah, human demons, or besides the Saja boys.
Well, there's they show a few other ones in the backgrounds that are in like the same like robes design. So I think there is that, but obviously the focus is on the Saja boys for that. But yeah, I took it as like the ones that had like the more monstrous, like the pilot on the plane, for example.
Yeah.
Like I think he pretended to be human, not used to be human, and is like assuming that form, versus like Jinu, who I think Jinu is the only one who's explicitly formally human. Like we could infer that the rest of the Saja boys might be, but Jinu is the only one that we know for a fact used to be human.
Yeah.
I think that's what Katie and I talk about a lot. It's like, okay, but if there are more, then why don't we see more of them? Yeah.
Because you need to focus on the golden boy. Clearly.
You're not wrong.
No, but, you know, there is a fan theory that like there's a photo in Healer Han's like kind of whatchamacallit, in his office that like some people think is like some of the Saja boys like before they kind of like passed on, which is like just a fan theory. It's not a headcanon, but people are like, oh, these guys kind of look like the guys. I've seen that a lot online. That's not substantiated, but I do think that there are people who really feel like they were human, but I think they might just want them to be, because, you know, they know that they would go to Guima pretty quickly as a Saja boy fan.
I just did a quick Google and I am seeing so many marked up images.
Yeah, I did the exact same thing. I'm
Yeah.
Holy moly.
It is a very like people actually kind of like debate which picture too, like so yeah.
I'm also seeing two different ones.
Yeah, because they show
the fan theories are amazing about this movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can we pivot to a different fan theory that I just want to talk about?
I have
Sure.
a feeling I know which one
Which
it is, but please say it.
Selene and Rumi's father and mother.
This is
the
not
fan
the one
theory.
that I thought it was going to be.
The fan theory is that Selene went to kill Rumi's father, who we know is a demon, and accidentally killed the mother as well.
So I saw that, and then I saw somewhere, and this could be completely wrong, that the creator explicitly refuted that.
Oh, okay.
I might be wrong though, so don't quote me. But I think that there was some potential talk about that actually having been an idea that they then were like, no, that's too much.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly similar to an Obi-Wan Kenobi scenario. So what happened to the mom is its own thing, but like, you know, we know that Rumi had a demon father.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, like, I really hope we get to explore that at some point in this franchise, because I feel like that love story is potentially quite interesting, and also her father is potentially still around somewhere, right?
Possibly. Yeah. We did.
The fan theory that I was thinking about though was, and I don't even know if it's like explicitly a fan theory because the art style is very similar, but with Jinu's sister and the original Hunters.
The original Hunters that they saved Gina's sister and mom.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that almost feels like kind of explicit just in the fact that they look pretty identical.
I was going to say, we do see her like the assuming that it is the same little girl, but like the pairing of the mother-daughter character, like, I don't know, forms is basically identical, but we do like literally see her like soul get pulled up by one of the hunters and used in the original Hanmoon in that first animation. It's I mean, I liked that one. I thought it was very compelling.
Which then also adds a layer to Jinu's story, which is like, Guima told him that his family died because he left them, but it's possible that they didn't, and that's
right.
just been a lie that he's been like living with the guilt of for centuries, not decades.
I mean, technically, centuries are made up of decades.
That is so true.
You're not wrong.
multiple decades.
So many
decades.
He's been living with it for seconds.
At least
How
a couple
many?
seconds.
Yeah, no, this is the kind of movie that invites that kind of like fan speculation, which I think is just a really fun aspect of it. Sam, I'm going to lean on you for a second here. We've already talked a bit about the sort of like the cultural aspects of it, but is there anything else that is specific to like Korean culture that we haven't shouted out? Like, there's a lot that I understand that I'm just a very like white boy who's just not going to know a lot of this, and it's not like I'm like, I've been listening to a ton of K-pop since this movie came out, but I'm not going to pretend that I have any sort of authority on it. Like, I couldn't name a group besides Twice off the top of my head, BTS, but
I was gonna be like, I think you'd do one more at least.
Yeah,
and it was BTS.
Right. But is there anything in particular that you spotted that is really cool? Actually, before you say, I will note the weapons are really cool.
Yes.
They're specific Korean style weapons. I particularly appreciate Mira's glaive, which I forget the name for it. It's not a naginata. That's the Japanese version of it, but it's still a very cool and traditional Korean weapon, which is why Song Mina and Soul Calibur uses it.
Well, it's interesting too because I am not an authority at all. I do have Korean friends who I've discussed this with, but take everything I say with like the third-hand knowledge that it is, because I am not Korean. I am Puerto Rican. Actually, all three of the weapons that the girls have, that our leads have, are similar to weapons or even devices that shamans will use. And in South Korea, in the more traditional, like it's like an older kind of more, just the belief system that was there before everything else. The shamans are usually women, or traditionally they were women, and they traditionally would use these types of weapons, so the small knives and that particular staff that clearly New Yorkers are, I know from the name too, and a sword to actually in their ceremonies to like get rid of spirits. So that's like a nice to that, because these are demon hunters, and so like, you know, that's just like a nod that they're not, never say they're shamans. And from my understanding, it was explained to me that like right now, at least politicians going to shamans is a little controversial in Korea right now. But yes, so there's that. And then the most important character that we have not talked about yet, which is Derpy.
I can talk about Derpy and stuff.
Oh my God! Yes. Oh
and
God!
They're from
I wanted
folklore,
to talk about
right?
Derpy.
Those are actual. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Derpy, who is a tiger. So Derpy didn't have a name in the script, but it is emblematic of the animator's cat, and we got their name afterwards when everyone's like, "What's the name of the tiger?"
I love how the internet just goes for Derpy, because there's also Derpy Hooves from My Little Pony, which was also a situation where like people were looking to name a character who was in the background and who also had weird eyes.
But Derpy actually, in like traditional Korean lore, the magpie actually represents the people, and the tiger usually represents royalty. And so we had that fun little thing with like the magpie continually taking the hat, which that particular hat was only worn by royalty. So it's kind of.
I didn't know that. That's really fun.
Yeah. So it's kind of one of the things. So like Gino, who like sold his soul to be part of the aristocrats, or at least to form for them, right, made the hat for the tiger, but the magpie keeps stealing it. And so yes, and so the tiger and the magpie are in a lot of like traditional, kind of art all through Korean history, because it's the symbolization of like the royal power and the people. And so, yeah, Derpy being a messenger and kind of this, kind of a familiar to Gino is always really nice. Plus, he adds so much fun.
Also, they somehow make him so lovable so quickly. Like it's amazing how like it just reads as like not hostile, even though it's a big scary tiger.
I think also like because he comes in as like a servant of Genu, you have this moment of, is this some sort of demonic entity? And that goes away so quickly because
he knocks over a plant.
He's
and then
just so
all
cute.
of a sudden,
yeah. So Maggie King's husband, who is a great animator in his own right, but I can't remember him because I'm a feminist. No, I just actually cannot remember his name at the current time. He actually, that's based on their actual cat, who's a little bit slow and knocks things down a lot and then tries to set it right. And he saw the cat doing it and just kind of drew it out, and she loved it so much that that's kind of how that became part of the movie.
I love that.
Yeah, and so like I love that fact because it puts a really nice personal touch to what could otherwise be a very intimidating tiger. But he's just fun. He's clumsy. He's big, and then Sassy just feels so smart and so incredibly mischievous that it's really fun. I think so. What else? Is there anything else in particular that I can think of that we've missed? I mean, I've watched a bunch of videos and talked to a couple friends about it, but I think those are like the finest parts. I mean, like, of course, this is a good representation of K-pop overall. Like, they hired K-pop artists to sing and to perform, and Korean Americans to sing and perform these songs, and so they really did their best to try to weave this with as much, cultural respect. I think, Maggie Kang is Korean Canadian, and it was just really important for her, I think, to try to keep that as, close to as possible. I saw a lot of people be really excited about the fact that Rumi picked up a kimbap that wasn't cut, because like some like traditional, if you're making it home, like it may not be sliced, like if you're to go maybe, but so a lot of Korean people online were just like really excited about like proper food representation, which is pretty great, I think. It's like, yes, finally. I just think that from everything from clothing choice and have a lot of the Korean knots. I don't remember the names of them, like on all the girls' costumes, which is a nod to that stuff.
Oh yeah, like the huntrix symbol has
So and those are like for good fortune and stuff like that. So having those all over, and it's basically like everywhere in their styling. They really made sure to like pay attention to like everything that the girls are kind of both bands are doing for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously I'm coming from the perspective of someone who's not like super well versed in Korean culture, but like it seems to be a very respectful. There's nothing where it's like being played. It's at no point does it feel like it's punching down on Korean culture.
No.
Like there's humor, but it's humor at the characters, not at the world that they're from. It doesn't feel like we're taking, we're not taking any aspect of of the world that they live in and playing it for laughs beyond just like the fact that there are like these types of people in it, like Healer Han, who is like a little bit of a con man kind of thing.
Wait, but he was actually right. He was right. But Ruby was hiding something that she needed to discuss, and that's why her voice was off.
It's true. It's true. And like maybe all he needed to give was a placebo.
Yeah. He's actually a really great healer. I will hear nothing against him.
I've just got the tonics for you. Yeah. Daniel Day Kim. Yeah.
I think also a true testament to this is that like people in Korea liked this film. So like, like if they didn't like this film, we'd be like, oh, maybe there's some questionable things. But they really did like this film. And actually,
it's been huge.
And after this, like it was really funny because pop idols do a lot of trends online and stuff like that. So many groups made their own either soda pop or your idols, like their own stuff to kind of like, oh yeah, I love this too. So actually I think I saw shared online that Jungkook from BTS actually like watched it on like a live, was like talking at the film while people were watching him watch the film, which is just a crazy thing you can do if you're in BTS. Just let people watch you do other things. This movie clearly at least has global acceptance, and it's global acceptance from the culture that it is borrowing from and is a love letter to.
All right. I have one last question for you, Sam.
Okay.
How does this fit on your chores scale?
Oh, this is actually a very distracting movie. I don't know if you should be doing chores during it, but if you've seen it for like the 30th time, I think you could leave it in the background. So I'm going to say that in terms of chores, it's not really good for getting things done, but you can do it. So I'm going to say that it's like a 1. 1 or a 2. I think a 2, because you could like maybe sing along while you're doing stuff, but it'd probably be better if you just listen to the soundtrack while you're doing stuff. Because I think if you see the animation, you're going to stop and then get distracted.
Can I offer a different scoring system for this?
Sure.
It's a 10 on the treadmill scoring system.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. We actually recommended my dad because he always needs to watch something when he's on the treadmill. And we were like, we have the perfect movie for you because it is distracting. It is pretty. It is upbeat. There's good music and you can just focus in on it because it's all you're doing for that period of time.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that. I like that scale.
Thank you.
You should make that a permanent thing that you do for everything.
How millable is this movie? I'd like to say 2 things. One is I did a little bit of Googling, and the weapon that Mira uses is called a woldo, which is essentially just a moon sword, which is, or moon blade, which is the polearm. And then I wanted to share it with you guys. This is a merging of 2 things. The theory that Katie and I have very close to heart, which is that this movie, canonically could exist in Brandon Sanderson's universe.
Cosmere.
It could exist in the Cosmere because those weapons are shard blades.
But not just that. There's so much more to this
there's
theory.
Additional,
it's not because those weapons are shard blades.
Well, okay, there's a lot of other stuff to support this as well. We've had a very in-depth discussion about it. However, I feel like the linchpin for just like the easy access is they can summon their weapons out of nowhere. They are glowing. They are made out of souls. There's a lot to say that this could be argued as a Cosmere canonical world.
I have so many things to say about why that isn't the linchpin in it, but I'm not going to say them because that's not what we're talking about.
I think it's the easiest one to access without
stop talking, or I will argue.
Hard sidebar.
Well, I think this movie isn't structured in a way that it has to be in opposition to anything else. Like it doesn't lock you out from any other lore. It could be double mumbo jumbo all over the place if we really needed. So, but I do like that as a concept right there, because their weapons are so cool in this movie.
Really cool.
It's a linchpin. I'm definitely not going to bait Katie
No,
into.
It's about investiture and them using the. It's fine. It's fine.
If I say linchpin one more time, she's going to.
If you say linchpin one more time, I'm going to get up out of this chair and go into your office and punch you.
Katie and Ben, before this recording happened, I sent a couple links over, one of which was a YouTube video from the channel D4, which is one I like, that does build designs for all the characters, and did a series of builds in D&D for the three here. We can all agree they're like bard locks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that feels right.
Yeah, like Pact of the Blade
right.
plus some kind of bard.
100%.
Yeah.
There's nothing else that makes sense. I guess you could have a weird bard fighter multi, but I like bard luck better.
Yeah.
They're all incredibly charismatic. Yeah. It tracks.
Yeah.
Stat line wise, 100%.
Yeah. glad we agree.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to throw that one out there. I mean, I guess Zoe might be like a soul knife somewhere in there just because of the energy knives. But
yeah,
you could also probably make an argument for like Mira taking like a 1-level dip into barbarian.
Oh,
ooh, yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to throw that one out there because the two of you are on this cast, and it's hard for us not to talk about D&D. It's remarkable that we've gone 2 hours without bringing it up.
That's how good this movie is.
Yeah.
Yeah. If that's not, that's the scale. How many hours could you sit with your friends who you normally play D&D with and talk about this thing before you bring up D&D?
A custom K-pop Demon Hunter handbook though would be very, very interesting and very cool, and someone should do that.
I'd play that.
That'd be very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, now I'm just picturing the campaign that I'd run.
I would hope so. I
feel like Derpy would have to be statistically wildly overpowered to make up for then his lackadaisical nature. So maybe an NPC kind of quest giver, maybe.
Yeah, I see NPC.
Yeah, like also like as somebody
or
who
familiar potentially
frequently gets stuck being the DM. I want that character. You, the players, don't get to take that.
It could be a fun familiar though.
Yeah, it could be.
True.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Wouldn't you want the magpie though?
Oh, the magpie is definitely a familiar. The question is Derpy also a familiar?
Yeah, I just feel like the advantages of a
so there's
flying
one familiar
are pretty.
You get one familiar. You don't get choices. It's just
nope.
just
you get
magpie.
one.
Well, and
cool.
also, no offense to Derpy, but he's a little bit of a familiar that's going to be kind of a hard thing. You're going to try to sneak. He couldn't be a familiar to he couldn't be best friends with a rogue because Derpy's going to give you away.
Yeah.
I mean, he does what it says on the box, right? Like, you know what you're getting.
Oh,
yeah, he derps.
Yeah.
All right, so let's have some final thoughts here. Katie and Ben, we've talked a lot. Let's have the two of you talk. Katie, what are your final thoughts on this movie?
Oh God, it's such a beautiful piece of art, musically, visually. The story is just so fun and wonderful. And I think that the biggest thought that I have is just that I want more in this universe, and I want to learn more about the history of the Hunters, and I want to learn more about Selene and about Mira and about Zoe, and just to explore sort of the canon and the lore of this world.
Totally. Yeah. I thank God it's a success.
Yeah.
Because we're guaranteed more stuff in this world. Hopefully it lives up to what we've gotten so far, because this is such a great, just an amazing amuse-bouche for a potentially deep world that is out there.
Yeah. And it's so accessible too. I feel like, especially for like really young kids, there's not a lot of complex world building in shows for like 1 and 2 year olds. I feel like this might be you could probably speak to it more than I could, but I feel like this is one of the more sort of complex narratives that can really appeal to like super young children.
Yes. And I just want to emphasize again for the audience, my daughter loves this goddamn movie, and my daughter is 2.5. She calls it the singing one, and she adores it. And most of the time when she's not talking about Peppa Pig.
I will put a disclaimer though. She does have heavy bard energy, so...
I mean, that makes sense. But I feel
That's
like
true.
the music from this movie is like, it kind of just transcends what people are into or what people like or preferences for different types of story, because it is magical. It's so good. Ben, it's your turn.
Ben, how about you? Final thoughts?
I genuinely, I don't know that I have that much to add. I think watching it with zero expectation was spectacular. I do wonder if people's perception of it over time has changed as they have, as like first time watchers who are getting to it later and later, because it has so much hype behind it. And I do wonder if we were afforded a somewhat unique experience in that, like, it blew up in my algorithm about 3 days after we watched it the first time. Wow, I didn't
That might have been because your algorithm was
catching up to me. Yeah, for sure. But it was, walking into the viewing experience, or really sitting down to it with zero expectation for what it was going to be, and then being greeted with such a spectacularly satisfying experience from, like Katie said, from a visual perspective, from a musical perspective, from a storytelling perspective, from a world building perspective, was really, really delightful. I would love if at some point one of the stories that they tell is just like how the hunters came to be properly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how does that happen? What does that process look like? That is something that I would happily sit down and listen to, especially if there's more music. But yeah, I don't really have that much to add other than that. It's just
totally fair.
It's a bop all around.
Yeah. Big old bop.
Yeah.
Sam, do you have any final thoughts?
Well, I'm right along with Ben here. I would love a prequel film. I have to say, and I forgot this when I was talking about references, but they actually like modeled the hunters throughout the years, and especially when you get into the modern era, based on famous.
I was about to say that. I love the flashback to the different girl groups.
And so they actually kind of made reference to those Korean groups, and I think that that's so really nice and such a beautiful nod to like just music as it's evolved, and so I would love, like a new generation would be really cool to see. Certainly the first would be great, but I think that the challenge with that is that you'd have to try to match the music to that. I think if you really want to, and so it really depends. But I think it would be really fun to do like early K-pop or even like one of the 1950s groups and just kind of stretch and challenge the writers. I'm sure it will just follow our three ladies, but I just think that would be so cool. And I would love the story about Selene and Rumi's parents, to see that generation just before and watch that love story. I think that there's enough in there, and it would add to the story that we already saw. Like, we already have some knowledge of Selene, and I think that generally people genuinely would like to know more about Rumi's parents and what happened to them, and why she was just left in Selene's care, and who kind of slightly begrudgingly took this child upon herself to raise her and use her power to try to seal the honeymoon for good. And I think the story is beautiful. I also think it's really romantic for a man to die to become your sword so you can strike down your enemies. So I love this movie. Yeah. Shout out to Jinyu, who's now a sword.
Yeah. Well, we shouldn't give Gino too much of a pass. He is also a toxic fuckboy.
Well, to be fair, there's no other way that he could have redeemed himself other than sacrificing his life and then becoming a tool.
His sacrifice at the end is
he's got to do that, and like that's fine. Like, this movie is about accepting everyone even when they're not perfect, so like it's okay. Like, it's not necessarily excusing the things he did, but at the end he did the right thing, and also he became a sword so she could strike down her enemies, and I love that for Rumi.
A cloudbuster sword, like No, I'm really glad that we had this conversation, just because it's such a fun movie to talk about. And like most of my conversation, like I've talked to my wife a lot about it, but like most of my conversations have been with my daughter about this. And, you know, it's a very, very particular kind of thing where it's like, oh, okay. Yeah. Which one do you like? Oh, you really like Zoe? Yeah. All right. Like, which is all cute and adorable because she's 2.5 and it's so fucking sweet. But at the same time, I'm just really glad to be able to hang out with y'all and just kind of gush about a movie for 2 hours here. So on that note, Katie and Ben, where can people find you and follow you? Thank you for being here. So people should check out the stuff that you do.
For sure. I'm on most social media at Katie Mera. Mera is Mehera. Ben and I both sometimes stream on Amateurish Productions, and we also, well, depending on when this podcast comes out, we'll have our Level 20 actual play podcast. Episode 1 will be coming sometime between December 2025 and January 2026, and that will be wherever pods are casted, and will be under the Amateurish umbrella.
Okay. Ben, what about your social medias?
I exist, I guess, sort of on social media. Ben_M_squared. I don't really use them that much
Neither
anymore.
one of us uses them that much
anymore. Yeah, like, you know, I used Twitter and then it got bought and then I stopped using Twitter, and Blue Sky is a thing, but I think if it weren't for the fact that my password and login information is saved in a password manager, I certainly would not use it anymore. My Instagram's private. Like, you know, I exist on the internet, but not really.
Okay.
But, you know, to Katie's point, we do have the podcast coming out, which we're very excited to do. It's been a lot of work putting it together. So we're
and it's
stoked
fully
to share
scored,
that.
Which is very exciting.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, it's like legit.
Talk about a musical.
Yeah. Actually, while we were on this recording, we got Discorded the first fully finished scored episode. So super excited to listen to that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, people should find you and follow you. Check out your podcast. I don't know how this is all going to play out with podcast time. It's really weird. This is a monthly show, so when we record, it is often very far in the future. So it is likely that your show will have dropped by the time this comes out.
Awesome.
Cool.
Well, listen to it. It's good.
Crazy how Twitter got purchased by somebody else and then turned back into Twitter. That's wild. I'm just going to put that out into the internet.
Just put it out into the ether.
Hey, you know, make it happen.
If only, man.
Oh my gosh,
If
wait, everything's
true,
fixed in America? That's crazy.
All right, Katie, we have to keep it somewhat realistic. Come on now.
Anyway.
No. Wait, you know what? Overshoot.
I'm legitimately afraid of what I could say that might bring the Secret Service to my front door.
No, it's fine. You overshoot, and then we accept what we get, right? We're going to ask for more.
Yeah, if we get 50% of the way there, I would be
exactly.
We're negotiating with the universe right now.
Yeah.
Every single Republican politician had a heart attack. What?
Oh. Hey, listen, I'll settle for half.
Yeah, so true. So true. Hey, give me like 10 solid heart attacks and we're going to be in a good place.
Oh my God. Well, they won't be in the good place.
Or they could be in the good place as portrayed by The Good Place.
Great TV show. Fantastic TV show.
That's a TV show we should do an epised with you guys about at some point.
That's not a movie.
It's okay.
We could come up with some BS, but
just pick an episode at random.
No, but again, thank you so much for coming on. It's been too long since we did the Dungeons and Dragons episode together.
Thank you for having us.
Which was also obviously for viewer or listeners who have not listened to it, also a 5th episode because nothing went wrong with that. And it was a great movie and it's perfect. The original.
For the record, we're not talking about the new Dungeons and Dragons movie, which actually probably would qualify for a 5th episode. We are talking about the 2000, 2001?
2000,
yeah.
I think.
Yeah. One with Marlon Wayans, which is just...
It is.
It's a masterpiece. I don't know why you guys are making these noises.
Sam, where can people find you and follow you?
They can find me on the Discord. Even if you don't see me, I'm there lurking. And then they can find me here when the episodes drop. And if you have any problem with anything I said, or you have any corrections about anything, because again, I am not like an authority on Korean culture. So you can find KSAT.
Well, yes, please come at me, y'all. I am still on most of the social medias at Case Aiken, except for Instagram, where I'm holding on for dear life to my AIM screen name from high school, which was Quetzalcoatl 5, because I was pretentious then and still am. QUETZALCOATL 5. Yeah, there we go right there. Yeah, so you can find me on all those social media platforms. The Discord is a really good place to find us. That it's a good spot there. You can also find us at certainpov.com, where you can find tons of other great shows, including some stuff from Amateur Productions. What the fuck is on there?
Yeah.
Or how the fuck? How the fuck?
Yeah.
But we do have some people that we have to shout out. We do have a Patreon going for the show now, which has been going strong. It is a wonderful service that we have been trying to provide all kinds of content for. So even people joining at the free tier get a ton of cool stuff, including essays that I write each week, one about a D&D topic, the other about a nerd topic of my choice. But at higher levels, you get clips of the show ahead of time. You get sneak peeks at other kinds of things. And for those who join at the executive producer tier, you get a shout out at the end of each podcast episode. So I've got a few people to shout out right now, and that is Micah McCaw, Carter Hallett, Sean Muir, Lee Gregor, Memento Young, Logan Crowley, Joe Mastropiero, Casey and Nancy Aiken, Adam Samter, and Keith Lettinen. So if you want to be awesome and jump in at the executive producer level, we would really appreciate it. It's helpful to have, stuff to keep this all going. Like, we've been doing this for a long time now. It's nice that people have said that, yes, they appreciate us. We'd love some more. So consider it. Otherwise, you can check out the show anywhere you get your podcast. You can find us on the YouTube channel for Certain POV Media. So at Certain POV Media on YouTube, you will find this. You will find Men of Steel. You will find all the stuff that I'm working on our YouTube channel that recently cracked 40,000 subscribers at the time of this recording, which is just incredible to say out loud. So yeah, like, statistically, you probably are listening to this on YouTube. So what am I telling you? This is not news. But yeah, thank you for that. Next time we will be back with a regular episode for the show. Sam, what are we talking about next time?
Next time, we'll be talking about Highlander 2, The Quickening. But until then, if you enjoyed this, pass it on.
Thanks for listening to Certain Point of View's Another Pass podcast. Don't miss an episode. Just subscribe and review the show on iTunes. Just go to certainpov.com.
Another Pass is a Certain POV production. Our hosts are Sam Alicea and Case Aiken. The show is edited by Sophia Ricciardi. Our logo and episode art is by Case Aiken. Our intro theme is by Vin Macri, and our outro theme is by Matt Brogan.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.